Hello, everyone. Again, thank you for joining us today as part of our speaker series leading up to the Pet Dog Trainers of Europe annual conference, an AGM, which main topic will be about dogs with big emotions. I'm delighted to introduce another of our inspiring conference speakers who will be joining us in Riga this September. And today we will little bit talk about her speech, which will be much more deeper in the conference. But today we will give you a little sneak peek into this topic, and it's about community dogs. And I would like to say that I think that community dogs have so much to teach us by observing how they communicate, build relationships, and navigate conflicts and make their own choices. So that's why today we are really, and I am really happy that I can talk with Liz from Greece. She will tell us a little bit about community dogs, and I have prepared a lot of interesting questions for her. She will this year at the conference talk her presentation, which topic will be Community Feels the Secret Lives of Community Dogs in Greece. So, hi, Liz.
Hello,
It's nice to meet you.
you too.
And maybe we can start by you introducing yourself and tell us a little bit more about you and how are you working with dogs and with shelter dogs or community dogs and rescue dogs in Greece?
Okay, well, I actually grew up in Australia and I was there for most of my life because I'm Australian. And uh, I always loved dogs, but I was never allowed to have a dog. And it was something I always wanted. I used to take my neighbors' dogs for walks voluntarily because I just wanted to spend time with them. I moved to Greece about 6 years ago. And in
Yeah.
Greece was the first time I really spent a lot of time with free living dogs, so community dogs, stray dogs, and I kind of made some observations at the time, and then I moved briefly for 2 years to Serbia, and in Serbia I did my online training as an ethical dog trainer. So then I started to make better observations of the dogs, and I was also volunteering in the Pro Anima shelter in Belgrade, which is a very small shelter where very, very lovely community of people. So because it's like a nice little family, I was able to have a lot of freedom to work with the dogs in the way that I would like to improve my studies and observations. And I learned a lot about the dogs there in the shelter. And Serbia also has a lot of free living dogs as well. Then when I moved back to Greece, I really started to do more care for the dogs living free in my area, because what I'd noticed is that a lot of the people who wanted to help the dogs, they believed that what we needed to do was to collect them and put them in shelters and try to find them a home. But what I was seeing in these shelters was pretty horrific, like the lives that some of the dogs would sit in a room for 10 years and then die, and that was their whole life. And a lot of them never ever found a home. A lot of them really became uh, quite crazy, just from like they lost their minds from living in such a terrible environment. And the people couldn't understand. They would be like, but the dog has its medicine and food and water, so it's safe. And knowing the dog behavior, then you're like, but they're not safe because they're not mentally safe and they don't
Yeah.
feel safe themselves. You think they are safe because you're giving them what you think they need. So I really became more interested in what can we do to help them live free and not have this collecting culture for the dogs to rescue them. And that's why I started to cross over my work with ethical dog training with the community dogs, because then you're much better at observing them because you're trained to observe them. And I recently, with a friend, started an organization where we focus on the animals that live free and giving them in situ care and finding solutions for them so they don't have to be taken away unless they have a real problem, but that we can encourage people to let them live free and just care for them.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's the same in Latvia. We're not allowed for dogs running around, so everybody is taken in the shelter. And I was working, and I am working sometimes and helping shelters as well, and working with the dogs. And I see a lot of dogs who would really appreciate if they were left there where they were. And those most of the times are dogs who really have hidden away from all the people and live there, so they are showing us that they don't want to be near people, but then they have been took and taken to shelter, and then they need to somehow live there. And it's really crazy. It's like, yeah, we think that we are helping them, but actually I think at some point there are dogs who don't need this help because it actually changed for their lives for worse. Yeah, because they always are hidden under somewhere. Yeah, because there are a lot of people there. But I think that there are actually many terms, and I have talked to you as well, that a lot of people say street dogs, stray dogs, and then there's term community dogs. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about these terms, and what are community dogs and how are they different, if it is something different from what many people imagine.
Yeah. So I think probably street dogs, streeties, and community dogs are the same thing. Um, Stray dogs sometimes we include in those two descriptions, but technically a stray dog is a dog that's been lost from somewhere. So if your dog escapes, they say it's stray or it's straying if it's escaped from the home. So in the case that it's a dog who really has escaped from their home or left from their home, then they should be able to be reunited with their family or their home. Unfortunately, most of the dogs that live free here were directly abandoned, so they've been purposely become strays. And either one of two things happens: either they just become part of the community, so they find a way to live, and maybe they find other dogs, which is the case with my big groups. I think they're a patchwork family, which have just dogs that have come together at some point. Or maybe they get picked up because they are not coping, or because someone wants to rescue them. So there's kind of two ways that they go. But the stray dog is usually a term that's used for all of the dogs that are living free, but really technically it should only be used for the dogs who are out of place at that time, and then their life evolves one way or another.
Yeah. Yeah. And so community dogs are those who just live
They
there.
just live free. They're just living out there in the community. Yeah.
Exactly. So after spending so much time observing community dogs, would you tell us what have they taught you about dog behavior, emotions, and social relationships?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I should also differentiate between, there's sort of like two main types of community dogs that we work with. Some of them live outside of the villages and often in big groups, and they generally don't have as good care yet as other dogs. So that they might be in big groups, they might be breeding a lot, they might be scavenging for food or getting food from here and there and roaming around. And then you have like village dogs or neighborhood dogs. And these dogs are almost like a pet of the whole neighborhood or village. So these dogs have a really good, the ones in the villages and the neighborhoods generally have an excellent life, because to the point that some of them have beds that they sleep on, but they just live free. They've been blood tested, vaccinated, sterilized. They have a lot of people giving them food. Maybe they have food from 10 different sources, and they have usually social life with other dogs. Often people walk their own dog, their pet dog, and that dog will go for a walk with them. So these dogs can have a really nice life, and have a lot of people looking out for them. And then the others, they need a little bit of extra care, and they're usually not as socialized. So they're the ones that we are focused on in terms of directly caring for. So they're a little bit different. But um, what can I say? I think what is most interesting to me is how much the dogs are like people in some ways. The community of dogs is like a community, a good community of people. They're better communities than people are in many cases, because I'm lucky that one or two of the groups of dogs I look after are big. Like one of them is 17 dogs that all live together outside a village, and I look after them every day. And so I spend a lot of time watching them. And I'm so surprised at how organized they are sometimes. Like if one of them has puppies, because some of them are very difficult to catch, so they haven't been sterilized. And if one of them has puppies, the whole group of them, the 15 adults, will take shared responsibility. And there's never a time when the puppies are alone. Even if the mother goes for hours, usually one or two of the younger ones will stay behind, or even three. And if anyone goes near those puppies, they'll know about it. So, and I don't know how they do it, how they organize this, because it seems like they take turns. It's not always the same dogs. One day I'll notice that these two dogs have stayed back with the puppies. The next day I notice it's a different dog that stayed back with the puppies. I can't tell you how they work this out, but they always look after each other. They always communicate. And those dogs become very dog social. So if you compare them with a lot of pet dogs, that they don't have half the communication skills that these dogs have. These dogs can learn to interact with any other dog. They rarely fight. They almost never fight. And if they do, it's very brief.
Yeah, that's I think exactly what I'm always trying to tell my clients as well, that actually in real life, where there are those community dogs, they
Mm.
don't fight all the time. It's
Yeah.
not like to our dogs who are living in city centers, and we are putting them into these situations, and they cannot handle these situations, and that's why they are fighting. But in real life, they wouldn't put themselves in these
Yeah.
situations, so they
Yeah.
would communicate nicely. And okay, there would be emotions, but there wouldn't be so much fighting as it
Yeah.
is in cities.
Yeah.
And that, I think it's really important, like statement what we need to share and tell, that actually we as human put the dogs in these situations where they fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's
Yeah.
not like daily situation what is happening all the
Yeah.
time. Dogs are just fighting each other all the time, and so on.
Yeah.
Well, it's really interesting for me that you told us about that in those communities, they dogs are staying with the puppies, and that is another statement I always tell, that we try to leave these puppies alone really soon. It
Mm.
actually, real life, it doesn't come so soon because
Yeah.
they are always with somebody. Yeah,
Yeah.
it
I was
actually.
watching last week one dog, female dog. She had her puppy who was already 9 months old, and she was sitting with her, cleaning her inside her ears. And they, so they still have this, they still know who is their family, who are their children, and they're still quite connected to them for a really long time.
Yeah.
And the other thing with the emotions of the dogs, the more I've learned about dogs and learn to observe them, the harder it is for me emotionally sometimes to do the work, because I recognize things I never recognized before. Because when you work with street dogs, you sometimes have the mindset, this dog needs help, so I'll just take it, and it's the best for the dog to go to the vet. I have to just do it. I just do it, and you block it out. Then, when you really become more connected to the emotions of the dogs, you start to feel them. You start to feel their grief when their puppies die, because quite often the puppies die on the street, and you see it in their faces, the grief of the mothers. You see, when I take one of the dogs for vet care, all the other dogs sit around depressed for 2 days because someone from their group is missing. And I know I've had to do it because the dog is sick or something. But while that dog is gone, they act different. They're very different. When I can tell if somebody has been there and throwing things at the dogs or waving sticks at them and yelling at them, or if someone's tried to interfere with the dogs, I can tell, because the next day they're very highly stressed and acting very different. And so it's like it becomes very, very obvious when something's happening. And I think that's what people don't recognize, that they're not just machines or like They're wild. They're not like wild animals, and they're not. They are feeling things, and we do impact them quite a lot.
Yeah, that's so interesting. We talked before with you, and you mentioned that one of the most important messages is that our assumption can sometimes create challenges for harmony between dogs and humans. Maybe you could tell us what are some of the most common assumptions people make, and why is careful observation so important for truly understanding dogs?
Mm. I would say the first one is that it's a poor life for dogs to live free. So that, street dogs, stray dogs have a poor life just because they're not living in a home. And this is something interesting that we are trying now to reinforce with volunteers who have been caring for the dogs for years, decades, who have been abused, who've been yelled at. These volunteers get treated very poorly. They get threats. They have people kill their dogs. They have people injure their dogs that they care for. And they have been told the dog shouldn't live free, but something in them instinctively says, no, why can't they live free? And these
Mhm.
people have been hammered for years and told, no, you're wrong, we must take them away, though this will happen, that will happen. Now we're going through the procedure of saying, no, you were right the whole time. Feel good about it. You've done the right thing, and we're going to help you, because that assumption, I think people instinctively have this feeling, a lot of people, that it's okay for the dogs to live free, but that's been discouraged over the years by the more, I guess, the more Western idea that there shouldn't be dogs living free, that they should be in a home with a soft bed, with this, that, and the other, with all the things that we think are important. But if you really observe them and really spend time with them, you see their joy. Um, and you see that with a bit of care, they have an excellent life, even if it is a little bit shorter than another dog, because they can get hit by cars. Things can happen, but they have a lot of joy and happiness in that life, and it's not about stopping them from dying. It's about giving them a life.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I was just thinking about that, we actually, there are actually a lot of things that we as people have thought that this would be really good for our dogs, and this would be really good for our dogs. And actually, there are a lot of things that we have thought that it's not natural for our dogs. For example, one example would be the ball throwing like repetitively again and again and again. Yeah, because in what situation in the like normal like living like space for the community dogs, they would run back and forth all the time like crazy. Yeah, there are so much things that we have thought that it would be great for our dogs, but actually it's not natural for them.
Mm.
Yeah. And by looking at these community dogs, we can learn so much. Yeah, and that's why I want to ask you as well, if every dog guardian could spend just one day observing community dogs without judging them, what do you think they would learn?
Mm. I think if they really observe properly, the communication would be the most important thing, because when you watch how the dogs communicate with each other, um, how they play together, and then how the play stops naturally, um, what actual activities that they will do in a day. So naturally, they actually sleep so much. Like they spend, especially when it's hot, they are sleeping all the time, and
Yeah,
they get up. They go and do something. They maybe walk in the river to stay cool. They I don't know. They move around and they have adventures, and it's very enriched life. But they don't have the level of activity people try to give to their dog, and they
yes.
spend a lot of their time just laying around together, socializing. They will play, and then they will go for a walk, and they will eat, and they will drink water, and it's they don't need this high amount of activity. But I suppose you have to consider that pet dogs don't have as enriched an environment as these
Yeah,
dogs, because these dogs can go wherever they want, so they can experience a lot of things. But I suppose that just talks about what we can give our dogs instead of all these like activities to keep them
Yes.
happy. You know, it doesn't have to be going here to a cafe. It doesn't have to be going for a huge walk. It doesn't have to be intensive exercise. It can just be other experiences that are more relaxing.
Yeah, because we a lot of times overstimulate our dogs by trying to do best for our dogs. It's like our mindset, okay, we will do this and that and la la la. But we overstimulate our dogs because in real life, yes, they are doing stuff, but they do it calmly. They're sniffing and like working with their noses and brains, not with like physical activities, like running around like crazy and going to different kind of crazy places, and with a lot of dogs who are also overstimulated. Yeah, it is like that because I think that that's why I would like to ask you so much more questions about this topic, but I see that we will talk all of the things that you will talk about in conference. So that's why
Yeah.
I want to ask you the last question, because this topic is really, really interesting. And I think that everybody can learn so much from your presentation in this year's conference. So maybe you could tell us what can participants expect from your conference presentation and why shouldn't they miss it?
Okay. Well, I think probably the highlight will be that, as we know, observation is so important. I have a lot of footage to share of the dogs, so you'll be able to see physically what it looks like. Even though some of the participants in the conference have been here to visit and they've met some of the dogs, so that's fun. But everyone who hasn't been here to visit, they get to see physically what it looks like, where the dogs live, what they're doing. Um, yeah, and also I have a really interesting project I've been doing, which had some unexpected results, which I would like to talk about in relation to the dogs that I look after in my area. Some of the interventions I've tried with assumptions of how it would work out based on maybe activities other organizations have done, and to see actually what happened and what that says about the dogs, and what kind of care we can give to them, and what are the most important interventions to reduce conflict between dogs and humans.
Yeah, I think it would be really, really interesting, and I can't wait. So I'm will finish by again telling about the conference and telling everybody that you need to be there if you are working with dogs in any field, like some any way. If you are working with dogs, and if you are just a dog owner, guardian, and you want to know more, you want to understand dogs more, you need to join this conference this September, 26th till 28th of September, in Riga, Latvia, this year. And yeah, we will talk a lot from different perspectives about dogs with big emotions, with how they communicate, about their body language, about how we can help them with their fears and anxieties and reactivity. So we are really happy, and we are all, I think, waiting for this conference to happen. And I can't wait to meet everybody in person as well. And I think that's the most important part, that we will be there and we can communicate also in like coffee breaks and talk to each other. So that's why I really ask everybody to join. And a little reminder is that till July 13, which is next Monday, they are still available early bird registration price. So you can register now. And yeah, because the price will go a little bit up after that. And also, if you want to join, you can also do the payment in 2 installments if it is better for you. So yeah, I think that we can end. Maybe you want to say something, or we can end. I think we have said a lot of things.
Yes, we've said a lot, but I
Yeah,
very much look forward to the conference too.
yeah. So thank you, Liz, for
You're
joining
welcome.
me today. It was really, really cool, and I'm really appreciating that you joined me today to talk with everybody. So have a nice day to everybody, and to Liz, you too as well. And yes, we will add also the uh, link where you can register to the conference, and I hope to see everybody there. So thank you and have a nice day. Bye bye.